everybody. This is Alicia, Liz, and Ant, and we are Servant Decoded. And we're here to break down the final episode of Servant, Season 4, Episode 10, entitled Fallen. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey. Hi.
We've done it. We're here.
Yeah, we are.
We are.
So I know there's been a lot of chatter. How are you guys feeling about it? What was your overall feeling that you were left with once the credits rolled?
It's fine.
How about you, Liz?
I'm feeling a little better about it than I did. The bar for what I was expecting, really, the bottom fell out after Awake.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe after Tunnels, maybe after Myth.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
With Myth, with Myth, the bar just kept going lower and lower and lower. So I went into the finale with low expectations, and I think that was the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I did too. I also felt like going into it that we pretty much had a good handle on what we thought was going to happen. And I think that we were pretty much right by the end of it. So I didn't feel surprised at all. I mean, there was probably a moment or two where I felt validated, I guess, but not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Surprised by Leanne.
Yeah.
Reunifying herself.
Yeah.
That's
true. I didn't expect her to do that. That's true. Yeah. I think about like where we left off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, Aunt? You expected her to do that?
To herself.
I didn't think anybody would get her, technically. And I figured there would be some sort of like emotional, like being so close to Dorothy and so obsessed in that way. Like I figured, no, I guess I didn't expect it, but I'm not surprised, really.
Yeah.
I was surprised that it seemed to end on such a good note so quickly between Leanne and Dorothy. That was another surprise. I really didn't expect Dorothy to be so kind to her or forgive her.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make sense in the context of the episode.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then like understanding, I guess, grief and how people like need to process things and like the love for Jericho.
You mean giving her grace for giving her the gift of Jericho?
No, giving her grace because she understands like what it is to struggle in that way, and then realizing that while maybe he was my son the whole time, come back, like it wouldn't be right, like like they said.
Yeah, they would know.
Right, they would always know, and then it's like
Yeah.
not a true love, I guess,
right,
or a complete sort of love.
I thought it was a real switcheroo to have her thank Leanne. Dorothy went to a really different place with that.
Well, I did wonder. So right before, well, really at the very start of the episode, Sean and Julian are trying to stay, and Dorothy is trying to get them to leave.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks very pointedly at Sean and says, "There's no baby here."
Right.
And so that was her way of letting Sean know, I am awake. I do accept that Jericho's not here. I'm back. I'm here. Right.
Yeah.
And then when he was wanting to leave, when she was encouraging him to leave and he didn't want to, she gives him this real subtle nod to, send the message like, I will be okay. Trust me. So I did wonder if, yes, I don't doubt that she did have some of those feelings for Leanne, but I also felt like maybe she realized that the only way to put a stop to all of this or to set things right would be to make Leanne feel loved and accepted and appreciated.
Like to transcend through love.
So whether it was manipulated, there was some emotional manipulation there, not necessarily in a like selfish way, but just like, I know that this is what she needs. And whether or not I genuinely feel this way, I still need to give her this in order for the healing to move forward.
Because say it with me.
Say that.
She's a good mother.
What?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to put it. I just, based on how Dorothy had been, maybe not acting, but talking so recently. Well, and she even starts out with, "What are you?" As soon as Sean and Julian leave, she says, "What are you?"
Right.
And Leanne says, "Does it matter?"
Well, and I
Mhm.
guess the thing that kind of had me actually more confused than Dorothy's reaction was Leanne and the dark entity. If I had to and I'm not trying to pick anything apart because I still do feel like we had a conclusion to the story. You know, there were a bunch of things that were answered. I don't feel dissatisfied, but when I was rewatching it, I felt like we had really gotten to a point of accepting that like that dark entity had sort of taken over Leanne little by little.
Yeah.
And so then I thought to myself, well, perhaps they did it on the roof, that big scene on the roof, because the only way to get through to Leanne and past whatever dark entity is influencing her would be to be physically outside the house. Right.
Right.
So they're not, they're on the roof, so they're not inside. So
Right.
maybe that's why that was going to be the only way that Dorothy could get through to Leanne inside, and get past the dark entity. But when I rewatched it, I don't know. It just kind of felt like as soon as Dorothy is accepting of Jericho being dead, you really just suddenly see a scared child in Leanne because she realizes like she's not going to get what she wanted. And I don't see that like angry darkness there anymore. I just see a
no.
vulnerable child. So I guess I was just a little bit confused about, the power of this dark entity. And so for me, that's what felt a little incongruous to what they had been building up through the series and particularly through the season.
Yeah. Now in hindsight, based off seance and what we saw after, I'm wondering if that wasn't Leanne all along. If she didn't draw, she drew probably trauma and darkness from the house, but I wonder if that wasn't her all along.
Right.
That figure whipping through the house,
Yeah.
ending the world.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I loved the idea of a dark entity, a separate one, but
yeah, maybe it was always within her both. I guess that serves the story more too.
I think
with the premise of like we all have good and evil within us, we all have darkness and light within us,
and even like the effect of like trauma over time and like being able to like internalize it and maybe not use it in a good way, but like to lash out and be angry and like, do all these horrible things to these people in like defense of your inner self. Like when she has that moment with her mother, like, what is it like to burn?
I think that's a good point, Aunt.
Great
That
point.
Leanne is in a space of grace and does try to reconnect with her mom in that moment.
But I mean, like lashing out in the way that somebody might when I can't say, "Oh, I'm sad," or "I feel lonely," or "I feel,"
Oh yeah, and we saw that with Leanne throughout the whole show.
For sure.
And Dorothy had fallen from the pedestal that Leanne had put her on. We know she fell from that pedestal early on in season 1, but then I think to your point, Aunt, she was really acting out a lot of the trauma and stuff that she hadn't worked through with her own mother and kind of taking it out on Dorothy after that.
And then being bolstered by the ability to start manipulating reality or, certain aspects of certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fact that Leanne left the Bible and went to the journal that Dorothy had given her was her, one of her big steps towards darkness.
Yeah. And one of the things that M. Night said in the featurette was that he wanted to see, it almost felt like when he was choosing the actress to play Leanne and choosing Nell, he really wanted it to be like we were seeing this girl evolve into a woman, like and grow up over the course of the series. And I do feel like we saw that. If you look back in the beginning, she looked so much more childlike than she did by the end. And so part of that was also, I guess, like the personal growth that you would have from moving from child or teenagerhood into adulthood, and that, selfish versus unselfish love or selfless love, I guess.
Yeah, I really look at it as Leanne living within the cult, the CLSers, whether she had great power or not, she was kept on such a strict path of good as, they determine it to be. I imagine it being a very harsh and strict road or path they want them to follow in God's name.
Mm.
But Leanne, even at a young age, having strong free will.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what the cult was always worrying about with her. Her free will is too strong.
Mhm. Yeah.
She's not the follower that she's meant to be.
Right.
So we have to keep a
Yeah.
close eye on her.
Right. But then keeping a close eye on somebody like that, it either works or you
Right. Backfired.
poke the bear, so to speak.
Yeah,
Right.
backfired. I look at it as she was, kept down in a way. And then when she found a route for escape by moving to the Church of Mom or the Church of Dorothy, that's when we really see her making all of these biblically referenced sins that help her grow the darkness. And it's like the more free will she gets, the more she abuses it.
Mhm.
And it becomes turned into sin.
So I know that there were a lot of people that were disappointed or felt like their time was wasted with the show, and I don't personally feel that way. There's definitely were some things that were not answered, or things that kind of, I really hung my hat on, I think, through the years that, uh, there was also a lot of stuff that I think that we noticed and talked about that we were right about. But I think ultimately the story that was told was beautiful, and it is really hard. It's hard to end a TV show. It's hard to find a way to end something that's going to be satisfying for all the viewers. We've certainly seen finales that have caused controversy, like Lost and The Sopranos, and I think it's rare that there's a perfect ending or a perfect finale. Maybe there's a few out there, but ultimately I don't personally feel like my time was wasted. I feel grateful for the journey. I think that there was a lot of stuff that was laid early on that was really cool to see it come around and show back up again. And so I don't know, I guess for me there was enough there, and I also feel like I understood what they were trying to say. I understood the story that they were wanting to tell, and I was still moved by it regardless of the obvious maybe weak points now in retrospect. I just wanted to say that because I know that
Absolutely.
when stuff ends there's a lot of big opinions, and so yeah, I can appreciate the artistic intent, like the artistry of what everybody that worked on this show did. And I think they gave it their all, and I was, very moved by it and engaged by it, season, every episode, including the end.
I agree with all of that. But what I was saying last week stands. I think that if you come to the end of a show and then have to kind of make yourself okay with the fact that all of these mysteries, well, they fall under the umbrella of, faith or
Magic,
family or love. I don't think it should be that difficult, or it should be that coded.
Yeah.
That's my issue. Like on Reddit, there was a funny thread where the person said, so I just spent years of my life making charts and studying calendars and dates, all for nothing. Thanks.
Yeah, somebody said, and I get that. We looked really closely at a lot of little things. Some part of me feels like, well, the show never told us that we needed to do. You know what I mean? Like nobody ever said,
No.
"Oh, you should look close." Like we were doing that because it's M. Night, and we're like, "Oh, we're looking for the twist." And
it did. He kept saying in interviews, like,
right.
Everything
That's
is
the
important.
issue. That's the problem I have. Is
that's what I'm
that
saying.
He encouraged that part, that every little thing is meaning. You know what I mean? That's the part that kind of bugs me because. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a misunderstanding of like words. Not that anybody's wrong or whatever, but like to say it matters, like of course it matters. You made the thing how you wanted to make the thing. It just doesn't matter in the way people want it to.
Right. Yeah.
I would challenge that with M. Night and company were clearly aware of what was going on Reddit, and the attention that was being paid to,
Yeah.
you know, the clocks and the dates and the birds on the clocks and, you know, what have you.
I
The
was
green
rewatching 'cause
window.
I saw that too, and I was like, "Fucking Liz was right. There's two birds there." I
So
knew you were, but like seeing it, I was just like, "Son of a
Mhm.
bitch!
son of a bitch.
What does that mean?"
Exactly. So, and
Means they
you
bought a
know,
car.
having the camera go zoom onto it, see, pay attention, with the knowledge that people are dissecting the show and, you know, red string theorying it. I would think that he would then come back in to promote season 2 or 3 and say, look, not everything is important. You know, it's this larger story,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
They kind of you watch the feature thing, right?
I didn't see all of it. I just saw a little bit.
I did. I watched it
Mm.
yesterday.
No, I didn't see it. I'm thinking of The Last of Us.
Yeah, I watched it.
He more or less gave himself away in that middle bit. Like they were like, "Oh, well, we had this idea, and then we started doing it, and then what was it after the? I guess it had to be the first season. He was like, the pandemic hit, and then it opened up a whole new thing for us to like put up a bunch of ideas to like see what we wanted to do to fill it out. So you didn't really have a plan other than probably the beginning and the end.
Yep,
And that's not the same language.
it is not.
That's not really what they said. So I guess I could agree with that there, but
Mhm.
that doesn't matter as much to me.
Yeah,
Vindicated.
No,
Vindication.
for sure.
yeah,
Sorry, but for sure.
agreed.
That's all. It could have been
Yeah.
handled
Differently.
better. Yeah.
All
Or
right.
a little more transparently. Not that you need
Yeah.
to tell everybody what
That's
you're
what I'm
doing,
saying.
but
Yeah.
sure.
Yes. Thank you, Aunt.
It's interesting. I don't know. It's also a desperate attempt for her to hang on to something that is slipping away from her very quickly.
I love this shot.
Yeah.
And right here I wrote, this is what she did to Sean when she said, take the job, Sean. Right in the ear, Godfather style.
Yeah, and there's definitely when she's whispering to her, to me, feels dark to me.
It's the Faustian bargain.
Exactly.
It's the Mephisto. I'm going to give you everything that you want, and then see how much you love God.
Yeah, it was, especially at this point where like Dorothy's now awake, and we know that. So
yeah, interesting to see Dorothy make that decision with a clear mind. She also says, I know her as well as you do, Sean.
Yeah, so when Dorothy's going up the stairs and she takes that rain slicker off and drops it there, the one with the poppies on it, when I first watched it, I just thought it was a little bit of a strange choice. But then when I rewatched it and was thinking about it in terms of Wizard of Oz, it snows on them and they wake up in from the poppies and the spell that was put on them, because that's what it was. It was the whole poppy field scene in Wizard of Oz was a spell created by the Wicked Witch of the West to try and keep them from getting to the Emerald City, where Dorothy would, of course, learn that she had the power to go home all along. So it snows on them and they wake up. So in this sense, Dorothy had on her poppies, and that was supposed to represent her being asleep and the spell being over her. But when she takes the jacket off with the poppies on it and leaves it, that also symbolizes that the spell that Leanne has had over her has lifted, and she is fully awake and leaving that poppy field metaphorically behind and ready to move on and face things.
I love that. I love that. I don't think I'm going to rewatch the movie, but I like learning more about it. My adult self.
I totally understand.
When Leanne sits right here at the piano, I just noted it's her alone with herself. And that's her worst fear, is being left alone. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's when she starts crying and, she really loses it.
And looky there. The TV just popped on again.
I love what you came up with.
So my feeling after giving it thought is that the TV is the voice of God. And I feel that way because for a bunch of reasons, but one is that it turns on for no reason.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. Nobody turns it on. It just comes on.
Like usual.
But it's also like always seems to be some kind of like warning or commentary on what's happening and how it's relating to what's going on in the show. My favorite little, like the thing that like flipped the switch on though, the most about it was we were having our conversation about revelations, and there was something that you said, Liz, and it brought me back to the report that they give where Isabel is at the diving, is at the pool,
Local
and
humans.
local humans. And we spent so much time talking about like how those newscasts would sometimes say things that made no sense. Even the one after at the Marino situation where Isabel looks into the camera and says, if people were doing that what they were supposed to be doing, this wouldn't have happened.
Yep.
Like, sort of weird things where you're going like, that's not what would be said on the news. And local humans, and of course, part of what led people down the rabbit hole of like, oh, are they aliens, or, you know, what are we dealing with here, right? And us trying to figure that out. And so we were just talking about humanity and the good versus evil. And that's when it just kind of clicked into place in my brain that the TV is God. And it doesn't even necessarily have to mean like God in our traditional or the traditional sort of Christian sense. Because if you think about it, whoever's watching it is probably getting whatever they need from it. So yeah, in that Marino episode where Isabel seems to be directly speaking to Leanne, it makes sense to me that like that's what Leanne is hearing, because that's what's playing on her own conscience. And so that is God speaking to her through that moment. But, you know, perhaps someone else heard something different. So the newscasts were more of a nebulous thing that was meant to get the characters to give us little clues as the audience, but more so to sort of commentate on what was going on in the bigger sense with the family, and then like with the world outside of the family. So
I buy that 100%.
For
The
sure.
local humans line, I like to think of it as an angel doing the reporting to God.
yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
local humans are
Mhm.
excited to swim, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I that just clicked right into place.
Yeah, it was so crazy. It was just like boom, and then I thought that's what it is. So there's a question answered if we're checking off boxes.
Yes.
How many boxes you got?
I know, right?
About 500.
So many boxes. But at least there was that one. I think I was also trying to just grasp at like figuring out what answers were we given, just to make me feel a little bit better about stuff that wasn't answered. Like, okay. Oh man.
So what do you think Dorothy's doing here? Just like saying goodbye?
Yes, I think she's saying goodbye. She kisses the monkey in a second too, and I wrote down that I felt like that was her kissing Jericho goodbye.
So up here in this scene, Dorothy says she's talking about the storm as if it's being done for her and by her. And she talked like that in the last episode, I believe, or in Tunnels. Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking about the storm, and something kind of snapped into place for me. I don't know if I'm right or not. What I wrote was that Leanne thought the storm was for her, maybe by her, but I think based on what we've seen in the finale, that the world is literally crumbling around the Turners, and what we're seeing is a reflection of what they, in particular Dorothy, is feeling. It's like Dorothy's world is falling apart within the house, and then, you know, this storm, she's in so much pain, this whirlwind of memory that she's been, you know, withholding for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's all coming crumbling down. I thought about the needlepoint with what looks like Dorothy and Leanne bound by blood and life and death and magic and Faustian bargains and jealousy. And, you know, Leanne may think that she's making the storm, or the storm is being done by God to punish her, but I started to think of it more as Dorothy's storm.
That's really interesting.
As much as Leanne is tethered to the house, she's even more tethered to Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
The house is the church, and everything is falling apart, inherently unsustainable, because a religion born of selfish devotion is inherently unsustainable.
Wow, that's really, yeah, that's a great through line. And that makes sense too. That makes sense. Yeah, wow, I like that. I was thinking too, as you were saying that perhaps the storm too is kind of a God thing, because Well, because she does talk to it like she's talking to God. But I get what you're saying too, and that kind of builds on what I was saying a second ago, which is, in a way, God could be subjective, at least in this sense, right? Like with you saying, oh, like the Church of Dorothy, and that being sort of her religion in a sense. So, and then that ties in with the storm being sort of what's going on for Dorothy. So that's really, that's a I think insightful way to look at that for sure. Yeah. I like it.
Good. And why are the twins not on either side of him?
I was like right before he signed on, I was talking to Ann about the friggin' tall man and the twins, and I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get what the point of the tall man and the twins was. Like,
I don't get any of it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't get why they did that, and then just didn't give us any answers.
And what did Roscoe see when he was gone?
Yeah.
What was the hypnosis session about? Why did Julian look especially afraid? What happened to Dorothy and Julian's mother?
Yeah. There was a tiny part of me, like at the end with how they did the ending, where I was like, are you really going to like leave this open for a series about the Church of Lesser Saints? Like, is that what's going on here? Is that the only way we're going to get those answers, M. Night? Is
this all you got?
That,
what do you think, Aunt?
About the very end?
At the very end.
It's a way to, I don't know why it had to feel like it was left open, but it did.
Right.
But like, it's a way to give him the redemption that he deserves, having persevered through, I guess, taking care of his sister and Sean, and struggling through his addictions and, multiple women, if we're going to throw that in there. Like, it was nice that he sort of gets an okay ending, or that he's at least
or you're thinking like he's gonna be okay,
right? Because she says, "Oh, you've been sober for a while, like things are a little bit more clear." So I guess they helped him that way. But to leave it that we need to talk to you, like, okay, like what are we gonna, like, what from there, like, what is his trajectory then?
right?
Does he remove himself from his nebulous work and money to, I don't see that happening, even if his character is slightly better. But like he even mentioned, oh, that's whatever the sweater was, he was like, oh, that's love, you're bleeding on my very expensive, like, sure, that's growth, but I don't know that he'll turn away from those things for something that's still so probably new and or like nebulous to him.
Do you
if
think
he even believes her?
No, I saw it as a warning. What does Riaz say to Dorothy when she, shows herself as a member of the cult? We're sent to watch people like you who have done something terrible, something like that.
But I guess I guess that really the question is that, do you think that he personally left it somewhat open like that? Purposeful, like, was it purposeful in case he wanted to explore what a series about that would look like, or do you think it was just to give us some sort of like insight into what Julian's life might look like after this? But since we had closure with Sean and Dorothy.
Right, I think it's more the second thing. So it's like a breath of air for him, as opposed to leaving it on he's, still like materialistic and might fall back on his addictions. Like, it's like, oh, now he has this new path to just.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think we're gonna go back to that.
Yeah.
But
I don't think we're gonna get a Julian spinoff or a cult spinoff, but we'll watch the scene, but I saw it as a warning, because she's saying you've been given this gift of rebirth, or brought back to life. What are you gonna do with it?
Or a challenge.
Or a challenge, but CLSers don't seem to fuck around. So
I just think that's where we really got the least amount of answers, was in all of those weird things with the cult that we're not ever gonna get.
The old tech, why did they use it? Why and
then all I can do is think like, okay, well, how much of this that we were like looking into was really just story devices so they could tell the story that they wanted to tell the way they wanted to tell it?
It's all just kind of like window dressing. Like, what the hell is that? It matters, but it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
But it should.
Well, no, it gives you the idea of depth without really giving you any sort of depth. Or I
Yeah.
think that would be the function of it. Like, oh, look at all these things. Like, look at how rich this world is, and like you're
Hmm.
only seeing a part of it. And
Yeah.
goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then deliberately odd behavior that makes you go, well, what's that about?
Yeah.
It's part of it.
Yeah. And they don't care.
You felt weird. I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I kept you hanging on.
Again,
Exactly.
agree to disagree.
All right, here we go.
Why couldn't you let me just have this one thing?
I know.
Just this one thing, one little thing.
Just the one.
Why couldn't I have it?
I mean, what do they represent down there, standing there creepy in the rain?
I think they're saying you better reunify yourself quick,
Yeah.
kid. I don't know. Maybe it's more window dressing.
This was probably my favorite scene of the finale. It got to me.
It's getting to me now.
This is where I see Dorothy just kind of saying whatever she needs to say to get Leanne out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I met you when you were that little girl. Do you remember?
That part got me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question about the fire. Do you think
Yeah.
we're meant to believe that she started it?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Ooh.
she says, "I knew that I was going to get in trouble. I knew I was going to be punished." You know, she ran
Yeah.
from it.
Okay. Yeah.
She ran from it, hid, heard her parents screaming. I could have helped them, but I didn't.
Well, she
And
was
I
happy
just
about it.
wrote, does that mean stop the fire? Does that mean given them an exit? Or does it mean I could have resuscitated them like Julian?
I don't think it's that, but I do think that I don't know that it means that she started the fire. I think that okay, like maybe it's more like, kids are younger, especially, I don't know, maybe not quite as much anymore. But, if people's parents were really struggling or something, or if there's a divorce, a lot of times the kid might feel like if they had done something differently, if they had been more this or less that would have,
Mhm.
prevented their parents from divorcing, and they kind of put themselves in the middle of it. Maybe it's more like that like in
Yeah.
her mind, she could have helped, but she didn't. And therefore she would be punished for that in some way.
Well,
Or she
and
started the fire. I don't know, but
that's a hallmark of childhood trauma, is that worse than being punished or blamed for something, for a child to have no answer, to have no sense of control over bad things happening to them,
mhm.
that's the worst.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why they often take it upon themselves, because then at least they've got the illusion of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or go
I
down
caused
and-
the divorce
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
because I was naughty.
Right.
And then just a bit about punishment. Like, I know I was going to be punished. Maybe she was playing with matches. Maybe she
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
walking around.
Well, maybe it was an accident too. Yeah.
Mhm.
But she knew that she would still be in trouble anyway, whether, even if it was an accident. Maybe she was playing with the stove, and they're always like, don't play with the stove because And if you think about, okay, well,
because I keep thinking
if we
about,
wanted to, we could look at maybe the fire. I know, Leanne, you're laughing. He knows where I'm
I
going.
keep thinking about that fire.
Yeah, maybe that is meant to be like some kind of, well, first of all, maybe Leanne did cause that one, I think is probably an important like little thing. Even though they didn't answer that, perhaps they did, perhaps like we're supposed to at this point to go like, oh, if Leanne was stalking her, if Leanne was trying to, connect or what, like maybe she did start that fire, or maybe it was an accident. But regardless, maybe that is the point, though, if it started on the stove, if it started in the kitchen, so maybe she was cooking or messing with the stove or left something on the thing by accident. Yeah. So I'm feeling like it was probably an accident, but that once it started, she didn't feel compelled to save them, or, because of the abuse and how she felt. That's what I'm thinking. Or maybe she was even like, we talk about her mom was an alcoholic. Maybe she was trying to take care of herself, or trying to take care of her mom and make food because nobody was making food for her.
Make
Tomato
soup
soup.
on the stove. Yeah.
Tomato soup on the stove. And why did she always eat tomato soup? Because she was a kid and that was the easiest thing she could make.
Yeah.
And it's comforting, and
And it's yeah.
Cheap.
So that's what I would. Yeah, that's what I would.
Okay.
Say. Mhm.
Well, thank you. Before they leave the roof, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure she says, no, I'm evil because I was happy. I wanted them to die. And the last thing I remember is Uncle George taking me away.
Mm.
He brought me back, but I didn't deserve it. I'll never be good enough for him. I'll never be forgiven. Why is she talking about Uncle George in the present tense?
Mm.
And then I don't understand. Last thing I remember is him taking me away. And then he brought me back, like brought her back to life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But she remembers being taken away first.
It could be she's just telling the story that she was told.
Right.
Like, we found you in
Yeah,
the
that's what he said too.
yeah, because he said that they found her. So she may not remember it, but she knows what he did, or she knows the story.
Yeah.
Mm.
Last thing I remember is Uncle George taking me away. That could be
Mhm.
like a final shot before she died of him
Right.
pulling her out of the house.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then they bring her back to life proper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she says, I'm fucking sick and tired of trying to be good and trying to be forgiven.
Mhm.
I'm never going to be good enough. But interesting, the Uncle George present tense,
Mhm.
because we still don't know the exact rules of
Right. Yeah.
the ritual.
Although later on she does say goodbye to him. So maybe she just meant it more in terms of like his spirit and how she feels. I don't know. Because she does say goodbye and she says, I'm sorry.
Well, she even has that active relationship with her dead mother too. So it's like,
That's true. It's a good point.
And Aunt Josephine on
right.
the wall.
When we were discording, I typed that Julian is the voice of us. That he's like, we get it, it's Armageddon.
Yeah, exactly.
Julian's become the audience.
Oh, I looked up is this where they showed the radio station?
Yes, I was wondering if you'd look that up or not.
Yeah, I looked that up. 101.8. In the Bible, it's a psalm written by David. I will early destroy all the wicked in this land. I will early destroy all the wicked in this land. All these are discovered and convicted. The land shall have its course against them. So basically, he's saying, I'm going to make my city holy again. I'm going to punish and get rid of all of the wicked that are discovered and convicted.
Interesting.
So kind of apocalypse-y, Revelation.
Yeah, cool. That's good.
But I do like this. This is love, brother.
Mhm. I was a little worried about Sean dying in the car.
Ooh, I can see that.
Super
See,
glad
that
they didn't do
didn't-
it.
That
Well-
didn't bother me as much because I didn't think that that's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I would not have wept if Sean had died.
I don't mean his death. I meant like a stitch popping. It doesn't really seem like something you would need to. I don't know.
Worry about.
Yeah.
Not really.
I like the fact that before Leanne washes Dorothy's feet, she says, I forgive you. And I know Jericho forgives you too.
Oh yeah.
The turnaround.
Yeah. And she kisses her because that's something I think she realizes she really needed to hear that.
Mm.
Yeah.
What do you make of the biblical implications of Leanne washing Dorothy's feet?
Jesus does it to his disciples
Yeah.
at the Last Supper.
Right.
There's usually a servant there to wash their feet because they wear sandals, they walk in the dust and the dirt. But there was no servant. And Jesus says something like, I didn't come here to be served, I came to serve.
Mm.
So when he washes his disciples' feet, in a way, it's like a baptism.
Mhm.
I'm washing you clean of sin.
That's kind of how I looked at it. Yeah.
But
Hmm.
just as important, he says, I've given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. We are to emulate Jesus, emulate me by serving one another. And part of that service is forgiveness. So
Excellent.
Leanne does both.
Yeah.
Gives Dorothy both.
That's good.
Yeah. When Leanne goes back in the house, when the TV is still on, they say, storm's getting worse and worse.
Mhm.
And there's a major pileup on, 676.
Mm.
Don't want you to get stranded here.
They would have been stranded no matter what.
Right. Exactly.
Take care of me.
Mm.
Don't let her go.
When she came back into the house, did you guys have any expectation for what she was going to do? Like, did you
Well, I
'Cause
knew
in my
right
mind, I was
away.
like, oh, we're gonna see some, turmoil with maybe the dark entity or something. I didn't expect it to be her doing the ritual on herself.
I kind of figured that,
Mm,
At
actually.
this point, I expected her to
to do
sacrifice
that.
herself.
Yeah.
And then especially after the conversation with Toby.
Well, yeah, and after getting the dagger from Uncle George.
Oh,
I mean, yeah.
George.
What do you think it means that she doesn't finish the ritual on herself? She does it out of order
Is she?
as well.
Oh, because
She does
How
her
does-
arms,
uh-huh.
and then she doesn't do her eyes. Like George,
Like
out of
stab.
order.
Yeah. Unless we were just supposed, well, no, because we see her burn the way she burned. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't notice that. Like, it didn't occur to me that she was supposed to, because I knew she blinded herself with the oil at the beginning or whatever. So I guess I didn't remember the stabbing in the eyes being a crucial part of it, but
Sorry, it's blind with oil or
Yeah.
stab.
gotcha.
Oh, okay.
I didn't remember her blinding herself.
She does.
Oh, she did.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Scary Jerry. No. You were done dirty, Scary Jerry.
We didn't need to see this.
We'll miss you.
The most gruesome death of all.
Awful.
The melting.
Such a sad end.
I know. Done dirty. Absolutely.
No.
I know.
His little eyeball just.
Right.
Miss you most of all. Scary Jerry.
Yeah.
We might hear from Scary Jerry later on.
We might.
Everything about this is awful.
I know.
Awful, like, in what way?
Upsetting. Just
Yeah.
like
Sad.
she's like giving herself that last little bit of like normalcy and like what's gonna happen.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
that I mean, even before we saw it, I was like, oh well, this is
Yeah.
painful.
It was pain. It was really sad and it was tough to watch.
Yeah.
But what an absolute nub though, because like, don't you see what we're gonna take a walk? Like what?
He
It's-
just seems so like innocent and untouched by everything else that's going on, even just in Philadelphia.
That, but also, even if everything was fine, it's raining, buddy.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, maybe if it's not raining tomorrow, like, are you kidding?
Toby's motto is probably, it'll be better tomorrow.
I
Well, that's
mean,
fine, but yeah.
I live where Hurricane Harvey hit, and so
Mm.
I knew that, like the worst part wasn't the days it was raining; it was the week after.
That too,
with
yeah.
all the flooding that occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it doesn't just, you don't get apocalyptic rain and then the next day be like, well, it's sunny out. I'm sure we can just go about our business even if
But even-
everything's underwater.
But they're talking, but they're saying like, "Oh, I'll see you later," and then he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, tomorrow might be better." Like she's like,
Yeah.
"Tomorrow might be better." Neither day is good.
Neither.
Yeah.
Neither day.
Moot point, but like,
Yeah,
please.
exactly. Yeah. And I guess there's a small part of me that was like, Toby's not going to be like, hey, are you okay? Or
Mhm.
what are you doing? Are you safe? Of course, that's the logic part of my brain. I understand the purpose of the scene, but
Hey. No, that would have made sense to me too.
What are those flames behind you? Is that a flickering?
Like, why is it so
Strange.
dark?
I should be getting back into work.
It's like, I got a man bun. I got that confidence.
He's just enamored because she cut off a girl's finger for him.
Mm.
Oh, God.
Who wouldn't be?
I have the New Yorker now, and I don't need anything from you anymore. What does it feel like? New birth?
I can't believe her favorite song wasn't the song that we hear her playing
Right?
all the damn time.
That was an interesting switcheroo.
Yeah, this is my secret favorite
Oh,
song.
wow. That's an interesting shot. Just the mannequin in the mirror like that.
Oh yeah, so many cool shots in this episode.
Yeah.
Poor
Mm,
Julian.
I
He's
know
like,
it.
this girl, always with the fire.
Yeah.
The third time I've had to save you in what, 2 weeks?
Right.
Did we ever mention that the tunnels were the third new part of the house that we got to see this season?
Yeah. Yeah. We got the roof, we got the tunnels, and we got the apartment this season.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just thought after the apartment we didn't mention.
Yeah. We
like,
may not have overtly
another
mentioned it.
part.
Yeah.
Tunnels.
It
This-
doesn't matter.
Right. I felt sad here because I did also feel like Dorothy was losing another child in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a stretch based on everything that happened and whatnot, but I mean, she did look upset about it, and
Of course.
and she did care, right? I think is
Hmm.
also what was pretty obvious through this episode. So I hurt for her too, because
Oh, sure.
yeah, there's that loss
More
again.
loss. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that helplessness, especially Julian.
And here we are.
Now, what is that?
Okay.
Wizard of Oz.
It was Wizard of Oz.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
whose shoes are those?
They
They're
were
Leanne's. Or
Leanne's
Dorothy's.
shoes, right?
Leanne's.
No, they're Leanne's.
She's
Does-
wearing boots.
Isn't she shopping in Dorothy's closet this season?
Yeah.
But
But
she wasn't wearing those shoes,
no,
so they're just there.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I just
like
thought that was
I
strange.
just looked at it as Leanne was the Wicked Witch of the West,
Mhm.
or no, maybe the East. I don't know,
East.
whatever it would be. It would have been the East, because that's where it's
The
not
house
like a
fell on.
1-to-1 or whatever. But I do think
Mhm.
that the point was, and we had one of our YouTube followers mentioned this in a comment, actually, I think on the Wizard of Oz video. Shout out to Athlete Fitness, who follows us on YouTube. They watched the Wizard of Oz video and said that the crumbling house is probably the Oz house that falls on the witch. I wouldn't be surprised if the show ended with the house crumbling down on Leanne with nothing but her feet sticking out of the rubble. So I thought that was a pretty close thing. And I thought about that as soon as I saw that moment of like, oh, hey, look at that. That is our last shot, or the family's last sort of shot of Leanne.
Yeah.
Is those shoes at the very end. So good prediction. But yeah, I think that's what it was meant to represent. But yeah, I'm not sure whose shoes those were meant to be. I just assumed they're meant to imply that they're Leanne's shoes and
No, yeah.
she was gone.
I just thought that was
Yeah.
because I don't know.
They look like Leanne's shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Modest.
Mm-hmm.
She made her own choice. She's chosen to save us all.
And they're like, okay.
Still don't understand how that saves the world, but
Yeah. I don't know. What do you make of that? Y'all? Was that that was literally the only pseudo answer we got from the cult at all this episode.
It's just reinforcing what George said. It doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, we don't need to say it again because George already said it.
Right.
but the worthless youths are still out there in the world spreading the gospel of Leanne, the corrupted gospel of Leanne. So
No, but that's fine.
Mhm.
no, it's not.
Well, and there's more evil to be managed and conquered, I think. is
She's
the
not
point.
evil, though. Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
teachings are a direct opposite in opposition to God's perfect plan. It's free will, sin,
Mhm.
enjoy the gospel of Leanne made me think about when Bobby or Bev went ham on Leanne in the basement when she was going to do the ritual on her.
Mm.
Bev.
And Bev says, why do you get to have all this, all these riches or all this luxury around you? That's part of what Dorothy was, or part of what Leanne had been preaching.
Mhm.
So she sent these kids out into the world to preach basically like Satan's plan, which is not a good thing.
Well,
I don't think there's a perfect answer, but I think it's a tie or a thread left untied.
yeah, her name was Snake. Okay, I guess I guess that's fine. Sure.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I thought that was.
Oh,
thought it-
yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was like a nice image. I didn't really think, oh no, like that's gonna
Yeah.
be a problem. But I guess sure, yeah, that could be a problem.
Yeah. But I mean, I think one of the overall messages of the show is that there's good and evil, light and dark out there in the world and within each of us. And the balance is the important part, is keeping that balance so everything doesn't implode and we don't all self-destruct. So whether that's on like a personal micro level or a global level, I feel like that's just kind of part of the point, right?
And sometimes it's gray, son.
Exactly. Here. I like say a lot about black and white, but no, I personally tend to see most things in shades of gray. So, but yeah.
It's not always easy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Balance.
What are you giggling about?
I was thinking about the song and what you said, and I'm just like, yeah, where did this song come from?
Yeah. That goddamn song. The other one. The one she listened to
Yeah.
for every occasion.
But was this not still Vivian Dale, or is this somebody else totally?
It is
I assumed it was.
still Vivian Dale.
Okay. Well,
It's not the one.
yeah. At least we got a new one then.
That's what I thought.
It's more thematically relevant.
And then I
I'm
went,
sure it's the
hey,
single.
doesn't make sense. And she's smelling perfume, all the earthly delights.
This is what she eventually puts this in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's like, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank
See?
you. You know, during this finale, we were watching it, all together. I had both a dumb phone call and then food that I had ordered delivered. And I'm like snapping at everyone. Not a good time. Give me the food.
Leave me alone. Yeah.
I noted this is reminiscent of the scene in Seance.
Yeah. Oh, I
the
see what you're
dark
saying. Yeah.
entity moving around the house.
Yeah. All I could think when I saw that was, is that where the attic window is?
And
But
where's
maybe
the
not.
window?
Right? She was in the attic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I feel like this isn't the window, but
The-
okay.
He could have said, "Hey, fire department." So gross.
Yeah, I think I probably would have rather them left all of this part implied and given us some more time and some more answers elsewhere.
I
Oh.
thought this was cool, but
God,
sure, yeah.
What? Sorry?
they had. I wish they had.
Yeah.
I did not need to see any of this.
No.
I thought this was great.
See?
Ugh.
There you go. Yeah.
Not great, but like,
Yeah, but you liked watching the
yeah,
The
it's a
moment.
good
Yeah.
moment to give her. I think.
Visually, it's really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's like, damn.
I've also seen much worse, so maybe that's just
Yeah.
on me. But yeah,
I didn't need to feel her pain.
Yeah.
I'd
The
already
fire
felt it.
part was the worst part, like when she starts burning alive. That-
Yes.
That's the part I was like, oh God.
It
Mhm.
goes from beatific to screaming.
Yeah.
As it should. But yeah, I know what you
That's what I'm
mean.
saying. Terrible.
Like that's not that bad.
Pretty bad. Fire would be a terrible way to die.
Oh, awful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it so awful.
Most often you suffocate first.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Julian has to turn away.
What kind of effects do you think this required?
Mhm.
he's probably wearing a camera. and
Yeah, I'd
then-
definitely be interested to see how they filmed it. That's not easy to act either.
No.
Oof.
I know. It's horrifying.
And then she falls.
Yep.
Oh man, I didn't totally register that on my first watch. And now it's sunny and it's the next day.
It's fall. I read an interview with Lauren Ambrose,
Oh,
and
really?
she said that all 4 seasons are meant to have taken place within 1 year.
1 calendar year. Yeah.
Yep.
It seemed like that's what they were trying to do. And then just sometimes it was like, wait, what?
It was a little funny with the holidays
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. They should have just not kept the holidays out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been less confusing.
And the calendars.
Yeah.
And the phones. And this would have been a classic M. Night cameo.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If he hadn't done it already. Sure, yeah.
You've had these types of issues before?
Sure someone was in there? You have a place to stay tonight? Yeah, I booked us a hotel. Think of it as a blank slate.
Blank slate.
Yep.
People say clean slate.
Mm,
Yeah, it's blank slate.
either or.
It's clean slate, not blank slate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that speaks to the whole, nature versus nurture argument.
That's right. Yes, because I knew you had
Caparasa.
said something about that, Liz. So that's also why I wanted to pause and bring that up. Can you
Yeah.
just reiterate what you said on Discord? Because that was interesting.
Oh, just that it's a psychological term, tabula rasa, which
Right.
goes back to the old arguments back in the, I think 50s and 60s, whether behavior was from nature or nurture.
Hmm.
And then there's I think a lot of psychologists back then kind of landed on a term called the diathesis stress model, which means that you may be born with certain traits, but it takes an environmental cause to make them show themselves or come out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Think of it as a blank slate, okay? Compensation. You can be the
Yeah.
person really nice again.
Oddity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like an indictment.
It does.
So
Wait, wow.
No, nope. How old would she have been?
Y'all.
How old would she have been?
wait, what?
So she
'Cause-
never says Leanne or
No,
agrees with
and
her.
then and how could it have been Leanne? Because
It
you're
couldn't
gonna
have
join the
been.
police. You're gonna join the police force. What you could the youngest she could have been was what, maybe 18.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying about the Merinos. Like, this is what they do. They go to places where it's volatile, where they know something bad is going to happen, and they're meant to what? Watch, stop, observe, interfere.
I was just thinking that she meant Dorothy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
think she
expected her to
did.
say, yeah.
Mhm.
But the Marino family, they had a father who was
Mm-hmm.
murderous. What's the word I'm looking for?
Homicidal.
Homicidal, yes. A ticking time bomb. And it was indicated that if Leanne had stayed at her post, she could have stopped him, or not everyone would have died.
Mm-hmm.
If they were watching Dorothy, why didn't they interfere or intervene?
So
Who
you're
are
thinking that
you?
what it's saying is that like they knew that Dorothy was going to do something.
They knew that there was danger in that house or within that family, so they
But
watched them.
when she says keep an eye on one of our sisters, to me that means
Oh yeah, like she
Yeah.
was in the cult.
yes.
But still, what are they doing? What's the purpose?
Well, perhaps she tells us in a minute when she talks to Julian.
Because like Jericho's death was at Dorothy's hands in a way, indirectly. The Marinos, their death was at the father's hands.
Mm-hmm.
The officer talks about being, I don't know, like a selfish, dumb
Mm-hmm.
teen. And then they're all and Leanne, when she was a child, they're all saved, quote unquote, given a
Right.
second chance.
Yeah.
The way that Leanne resurrected Julian after he was being a drug
Mhm.
addict
Yeah.
on a bender, hating himself.
So maybe there's still an argument to be made though for Dorothy also being reborn.
Yeah.
Or just that, yeah.
Maybe what Julian remembers is what really happened.
Yeah.
Mm.
Unsolved mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Dorothy's wearing the color of hope, yellow,
Mm-hmm.
the yellow
And
cab.
the yellow cab. Yep.
Yeah. And you could look at like Yellow Brick Road.
Yep, you're right. That's another good one.
I have a hard time believing their great love story.
Yeah, I know, me too. I always have. But I think that part of that's probably because we haven't really ever seen the real Dorothy
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
And then listen for it.
Their chirp.
No, listen. It's the smoke monster noise, the register. That's when I knew that I was. I mean, I know I've been saying he's been dead for a while, but as soon as I heard the I was like,
Oh.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Guys,
Same sound.
the cab number 593
Mm-hmm.
from Apocalypse explained, and I saw another strong angel coming down out of heaven, signifies the Lord as to the word, here as to the ultimate sense, which is called the sense of the letter. This is evident from the signification of a strong angel as being the Lord as to the word, blah, blah, blah. Just about like God's perfect plan, the angels coming down to join God on earth. Yeah.
Interesting.
Apocalypse explained.
Wow. Yeah. There you go.
There's a meaning to everything.
Everything.
Sure.
I love that smoke monster.
No, as soon as I heard it, I was like, there's the sound. They're all standing watching.
Mhm.
Yep,
Stop reading. Do something.
they're everywhere.
Mm.
You're sober now, maybe you're seeing things a bit more clearly. A second chance. It's for its purpose.
What the fuck are you trying to say?
I think you know. We'll be here. We're ready to talk. We're family now.
It's like you can't escape.
Mm-hmm.
You owe us a debt. That's how I look at it.
The angel wings, though. I
What
mean, I
the
know it's-
what?
Yeah. And then he knows, like, oh, I'm an angel now too. And the birds,
That's the dove of peace. I work for God
all
now.
back to when he got attacked by the bird. Of course, he's got the scratches on his face too that kind of
Yeah.
to that.
But the dove is a sign of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, fuck.
Yeah. So I believe, what they're trying to say there too is that the Church of Lesser Saints and the people that have been brought back are angels of God.
Mm.
I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what they're confirming. That's the answer that they're giving in the end about the cults,
Yeah.
Mhm.
is that this
I
is who
believe-
they are. They're angels that walk among us and try to help make sure that that there's balance in the world so that the darkness doesn't overtake the light.
I'll buy that.
Mhm. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. And that was it.
Yep.
All she
That was
wrote.
that was a very M. Night ending.
Mhm.
The shot,
It was. Yeah.
the angel wings. It reminded me a lot of the end of The Village
Yeah.
for some reason. A little anticlimactic, but
Kind of funny that he said holy shit, and those were the last words said. I think that they knew, like, the audience was Julian, Julian's voice was often the audience's voice. So I think they knew the audience's affinity for Julian, and that's probably why they ended it that way.
Mhm.
oh yeah,
But it was kind of like okay.
fan
um,
favorite gets the best line.
And maybe maybe he wanted there to be some conversation continuing on whether or not Dorothy was also returned, reborn,
Right.
whatever as well. There was purposefully some ambiguity there.
That could also be why they were so intent on letting Leanne be so close to her over the years, if they were trying to fly out and visit her and like observe like
Yeah.
her newscasts or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because regardless, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess we didn't really see much occur within the home before Leanne got there,
Mhm.
other than little snippets. So it's hard to say, like, was the TV magically coming on before, or so I don't know. But
Right.
I imagine if and when I do a full rewatch of the series, there'll be other things that I notice that might like make me have a stronger opinion one way or the other. But
Oh, sure.
ultimately,
be-
I think that I get it. I feel like I get the point of the show, and the
Mhm.
main stuff that I was just annoyed by was the Marinos sort of not getting answered, or just some of the things that were meant to seem so blatant, like the ring or the
hook man.
hook man.
Takes the
Yeah, a lot of
eyes.
those little things that I find disappointing that we didn't kind of get more on that. It didn't
And
affect, I think, the the goodness or whatever of the show, but it was just a little annoying.
Mm.
also, like in season 3, when we felt like we were seeing 2 different time periods. Remember that
Right.
the Dorothy shower one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
When she gets out of bed and then goes down to breakfast, it's like 2 different time
Yeah.
periods.
Yeah, the time situation too is really strange. Maybe that was being used as a device to kind of comment on how sometimes time escapes us for one reason or another.
Grief
particularly
makes
when there's
time funny
trauma.
too.
Or if you're stuck
Yeah.
in a loop, you-
Right. Like
time
you
is
keep making the same
meaningless.
mistakes and you can't get out, and you're not going to be able to you're not going to stop making those same mistakes until you face the demons that are keeping you stuck.
Right. And Uncle in the previously on before this episode, they show Uncle George saying to Leanne, "You're keeping this family, in a prison of their own hell," or something like
Mhm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
which is true, kind of.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Leanne was the one keeping them in
Right.
that loop.
Yeah. And like Leanne, I was looking at some of the stuff we were talking about the other night. Yeah, Leanne, I wrote that Leanne knew she had she eventually realized she had to do the ritual in order to save humanity, I think ultimately. But she also knew that that was going to be the only way to save Dorothy and Sean, I guess. Right? Because they, so once she made peace with Dorothy, she was able to follow through with it. But yeah, I was thinking like she'd fallen off the path and she had to overcome that darkness in order to it was like there was an infection, right? So we talked about like, well, what is the darkness? Because they didn't have the dark entity in physical form show up. And we kind of
Right.
thought that they would. And so
Hmm.
I was thinking that really the dark entity was more of like a nebulous thing that was concentrated inside of that home, right?
Right.
Like what was said by even by Bev and Bobby, there was just a lot of death in the home. And so instead of thinking about the dark entity as like a solitary being, it's more like, a concentration of darkness here in this place.
A
And
power
so,
Trauma,
source.
grief.
yeah, power
Yeah.
source. Yeah. And so the only way to, overcome it was to burn it all down and disperse that dark energy and kind of like blow it up from the inside so that it's not so concentrated. It doesn't mean that that energy goes away, because as we know, like things can, what is it? It's like it can change form.
Hmm.
It can, just in general, right? Like scientifically.
Yeah,
Right.
Molecules
energy.
and whatnot. Yeah. But like it can't, every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. And so you may not be able to like get rid of the darkness, because we can. I think that's the ultimate thing, is that like there is darkness, there is evil or whatever. You can't make it go away, but you can disperse it from there so it's not all concentrated here, which then leads to,
Right. That was
we
one of
saw.
the big messages of the show, was that
Mhm.
you can't have good without bad.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's untenable.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I think that covers it. Is there anything else that you can think of?
I was looking at my notes from when I woke up suddenly with that thought about the Dorothy and the Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was like really awake or really gathered my thoughts, I was chuckling reading what I had written. One of them was, so the idea of revelations in the apocalypse can be interpreted as in one of two ways, and I'm choosing to see it as a warning. Be good! Exclamation mark.
Good.
And I also wrote,
Do good.
oh, be good.
Right.
Be good. The storm, in the chaos of Leanne reflecting, Dorothy reflecting the mind fuckery of having a reborn doll come to life as your deceased child.
Yeah.
Okay, Liz.
It's funny.
Very important notes.
You never know.
So we're excited we've reached the end of Servant, and that is sad because we've really enjoyed doing this together and love each other and love these types of shows. And so I believe we're going to continue forward and kind of start tackling maybe some other shows that are in the same vein, some mystery box type shows. So we have some on our list that we really like. We're going to take a look at Yellow Jackets, maybe From, and a couple others. So keep an eye out, because we're going to put a poll out and see what you guys are interested in. If you're wanting to keep following and keep deep diving into some of these shows that deal with both great characters and great stories, but also these same larger themes, I guess. So we're excited about that. So the channel might be evolving and looking a little different, but keep an eye out, and hopefully you'll continue on the journey with us. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today and over the last couple of years, or whenever you started listening. I'm getting
It's been a joy. It's been a gift.
Absolutely.
We've loved every minute of it.
So much time.
Yeah.
Labor of love.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving us the space and the ears for us to explore that and do this together, because it's been a really, really fun experience, and we've made new friends. And yeah. All right, guys. Well, this is the last time we'll be calling ourselves this, but this is Servant Decoded. And we will be back soon as Yellow Jackets Decoded. Or just Decoded. We'll see. We've got to see if we can get the name. So the name TBA.
Working on it.
All right.
All right. Take care, everybody, and keep an eye out for angels walking among you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.